Hello everyone, and I'm going to try and redeem myself for unjustly forgetting about Nakari's update until the very last moment. So, Nakari is actually in a really good spot. Not only does he get all the benefits of the Slaanesh update, but I would argue he has become incredibly strong because of an exploit that has existed for a long time. Now, Creative Assembly haven't fixed this since its release, so I guess it's just a feature, and it pairs incredibly well with his brand new mechanic where he's essentially creating brand new Chaos Lords. Now what you need to do is start a brand new campaign when the patch drops and just really go through the gameplay loop. The difference here, I would say, is instead of going for the minor settlement, which is what most players do, you'll want to just go for the major one first. I know it sounds weird, but this is literally how I ended up getting my Slaanesh achievement a while back. Then what you're going to want to do is create a brand new lord. If you can get one with an experience bonus as a trait, that would be best. Also, make sure it's going to be a Herald rather than a Chaos Lord, because the Chaos Lord and the Sorcerer Lord doesn't really have any upkeep reductions, which is something incredibly valuable, especially very early on into your campaign. It doesn't really matter on the lore of magic, so Shadows and Slaanesh are both very useful. It's just the experience trait, which I'd say is the most important, and even then, it's not really a deal breaker. Then what you're going to want to do is create a brand new lord. If you can get one with an experience bonus as a trait, that would be best. Also, make sure it's going to be a Herald rather than a Chaos Lord, because the Chaos Lord and the Sorcerer Lord doesn't really have any upkeep reductions, which is something incredibly valuable, especially very early on into your campaign. It doesn't really matter on the lore of magic, so Shadows and Slaanesh are both very useful. It's just the experience trait, which I'd say is the most important, and even then, it's not really a deal breaker. You'll notice that the High Elves have ended up with an army, and you're going to want to use Nakari's brand new mechanic to be able to turn that High Elf Lord into a Chaos Lord. So it's going to be, from every time that I've used it, a Chaos Lord, the melee version, which is perfectly fine, and the units will vary. When you use this mechanic on a full army, it can actually be a lot better, but in most cases they'll just be like very basic like this, because really, that's the only vassals that you're going to be dealing with. Again, the vassal system isn't great. Now, this doesn't sound too exciting. It gives you, what, another army? You've got 3 armies up and running. One, which is Nakari, the Chaos Lord with a few units, sometimes with a Chaos Warrior unit, sometimes mostly Marauders, and then your Herald with nothing, right? Well, this is where the element of pain and pleasure comes in from Slaanesh. Pleasure for you, pain for that High Elf faction. You can then remove Vassal, which will then make that an independent faction, and you can just keep attacking it, subjugating it, and getting a shit ton of experience. Now, I do have to warn you that this is going to make your reliability hit the lowest point possible, meaning that essentially this is going to turn into a This Is Total War campaign. But it's going to mean that your characters are going to be leveling up very dramatically. Also, the fact that Slaanesh corruption and just Slaanesh replenishment is a lot better now, as you're going to be attacking this settlement constantly, your replenishment is going to keep up more or less with how everything falls with the other races. Depending on the difficulty, you might have to fight a few battles, but it feels perfectly fine as you're basically just power leveling up 3 characters right now. Now, this can be repeated over and over again to just get stupid amounts of treasury, which is fantastic because the Orth 1 fight is a bit of a slog. Also, keep in mind that when it comes to your victory conditions, you just have to take Orth 1 and then do the usual 60 battles and you're done. Now, you don't have to do this in turn 2, you can wait a little bit, but it is very dependent on where that vassal army is. You want it to be in that settlement, so you can wait until turn 5 and you can power level up characters like that. But you would have noticed that I started the turn with around 6,000 treasury and 400 devotees, and just after a certain amount of time, it's not really that long, literally just auto-resolving, 14,000 treasury and close to 3,000 devotees, the devotees being incredibly useful just to get extra growth coming in, or even just the cults. You can use it to proliferate the cults, and yeah, that can work out, but remember that the cults themselves aren't great, and you won't need to generate any more devotees, because, well, I mean, you're already going to have as many as you need. The big thing here to also take into account is, if you get the cults, all these enemy factions will end up knowing where you are, so they will declare war on you. I had Grimgor declaring war on me for some reason. The cult system, again, not the best. Especially when the reliability is low, because the AI always knows where you are, it just chooses not to act against you. This is pretty exploity, yes, but remember that you're in an area where all the factions hate you. Yeah, you've got a potential ally with those Dark Elves, but those Dark Elves, that minor faction, doesn't really last long enough, so what happens? Alarielle starts attacking you too. So once you're busy dealing with Tyrion at that point, usually by the time that you killed off Eltharion, Alarielle would have declared war on you, so you might as well take them out yourself, or just prepare for the worst. With this situation, well, it just gets a little bit easier now, doesn't it? Because after you've done it enough and you've got like, what, 50,000, 100,000 treasury, whatever you want. But once you've had enough, all you have to do is go on to turn 3. And at that point, you should have hit enough levels where all your characters have leveled up quite dramatically. And I mean in the case of, well, you know, you've got all the upkeep reductions or whatever you want with Nekari. Then you've got the Herald turning into a Exalted Keeper of Secrets. And there is a current bug I've seen here at the moment, because for some reason I'm not getting 2 being able to transform into their next phase, right? Like the Chaos Lord wasn't able to turn into a Demon Prince until the next turn, which was really weird. But either way, you've got basically within 2 turns a Demon Prince and an Exalted Keeper of Secrets. If you've waited maybe 1 or 2 extra turns, well, that means you might have 4 Exalted Keeper of Secrets, Nekari counting. So I just went with turn 2 because that's literally what I did when I wanted to get the achievement done. The reason why you want an Exalted Keeper is because the Exalted Keepers can be quite strong. Not only that, but yeah, they're monstrous units. They've got Siege Attacker at the very point here, even still in this version of the game. So Tides of Torment is not having the Siege update as far as I'm aware. Which means that yes, whilst you are dealing with supply lines, you are getting cheaper troops overall and you can have multiple armies attacking different areas. The Demon Prince is there just to basically support the Exalted Keeper and split up. Remember, Orth 1 is quite large, so you're going to want to be able to go into different areas and just take the donuts as fast as possible. This means that it doesn't really take that long for you to complete the campaign, and again, if you wait until like turn 5, you can have a shit ton of Exalted Keepers up and running. Sure, they're not like amazing or anything, but they still really help. It's also important to note that if you're going to be doing this, well, you want to make sure that you've got enough levels so when they turn into Demon Princes or if they turn into Exalted Keepers, that you're going to have enough extra skill points. Remember that when they transform or elevate or whatever you want to call it, they will actually lose levels to get the new stat lines. Depending how fast you play, you can basically have most of Orth 1, around half of it by turn 9 or so. Maybe even sooner, depending on how quick you move around and if you're doing some extra stuff. Like one thing I should have done is have troops being recruited early on, right? You can have another army being spawned in, making units as you're doing the exploit just to keep that moving. And yeah, you can really tailor it to be even faster. But I just wanted the achievement done because when I did the achievement, I had no idea when Tides of Torment was going to come out. In fact, I think I did the achievements around the time of Immortal Empire's launch. So yeah, it was a while ago. And this bug has existed for a long, long time now. But yeah, turn 24 and all of Orth 1 is there now. And you can definitely do it faster. The Demon Prince, the added Demon Prince really does help out. I'm not going to lie, it actually is really beneficial. And I'd argue that my economy isn't too bad. Sure, I don't have a lot of upkeep coming in, but I've been building up a lot of buildings. So I've got like 3 armies pretty kitted out, and then a 4th one that was just waiting at the border for Bretonnia just in case, right? Like, it's not bad at all. I would say that this makes it a lot faster. I think with everything going on, because like there was a few times I tried this, I was going around it constantly just to make sure if this is going to be viable or not. It was, the fastest I did it was turn 20, I think. But I think 24 is a healthy average. Obviously, you have to be prepared for enemies attacking you. I've got like 20 or so factions attacking me, but in some cases, they are so far, by the time that they get there, you're going to have Orth 1 so kitted out, and you're basically going to already be pushing into other areas. Hell, I even had some factions asking for peace. Reliability is going to be the lowest possible because it's basically always resetting. But you can avoid a bunch of factions declaring on you when you just don't use the cults. I just wanted to get the cults up there to see if they were any use, and no, they weren't. I mean, in some cases, you can vassalize a few, but a lot of those factions are going to get destroyed very early on because you've got all these power play factions like Lokia expanding and taking loads of territory. So there is literally no point. But yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This is a long-standing bug that hasn't been fixed, so Creative Assembly, if you're going to look into fixing that now, don't, because this is a feature, not a bug. It fits incredibly well with the Slaanesh theme, and to be honest, there's much more important things that you should be fixing. I think this bug paired with the basically one-time use mechanic that Nakari has just gotten access to makes Nakari's campaign very fun, and it is very much a Slaanesh theme. So I think it works out quite well. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Start a bit of a discussion. I should be live at this point on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges. I don't know when this video is going to go live, so I can't say what exactly I'm going to be playing. But pop by, say hi. Loads of videos coming out for the foreseeable future. So have a great day, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye.